Good evening, Jason here with Victor.us, a short teaching inspired by 3 events that all happened within a short period of time. The title of this message is The Hornet's Nest, and so it's a metaphor on a hornet's nest, bees, wasps, and church in America. And so a baby shower, bee-themed, and a men's Bible study where the host got up and killed a wasp. And then 3, a homeschool class presentation where a little boy gave his presentation on hornets and bees and wasps. And I knew at that point to do this message, mainly because 2 witnesses is good enough. When you get 3, it's time to start talking. So here we go. The Hornet's Nest, church life in America. Okay, so let's talk about honeybees. Honeybees, there's males. Those are called drones. They cannot sting. Females can sting. And I learned that from the young boy in homeschooling during his presentation. Honey, it provides energy for the hive and food for humans. Now, the promised land itself, right, the nation we live in, is dubbed the land of milk and honey. So the honeybee, honey, the hive. What is the end goal of honeybees? To ensure the survival and reproduction of the colony. So they all sacrifice for the whole. Biologically, a single honeybee has no independence. Its individual life is short and entirely dedicated to the colony. So here's a picture of Heidi Cruz. Sometime after meeting her, she had said on a national stage that our lives here are short, and it's important that we have that perspective and make the most impact for the time we're here. Met her in 2015. Her husband sent her in his stead. He could not make an appointment. And so this will kind of be on theme with husbands and wives. Husbands, we should be able to send our wives in our stead for a political endeavor. Wives, we should be able to send our husbands into war and into political engagement. Most can't send them to the grocery store, let alone to the State House. So, got to meet Heidi Cruz. The honeybee. The honeybee colony is much like an American Christian family. So if you're a churchgoer, if you're a nuclear family, you have a good thing going, you are like this metaphor, word picture of the honeybee. And anyways, males go to work to get the honey, queens stay back in the hive. But in the animal kingdom, both males and females work and labor together to fund the colony, expand the colony, and protect the colony. Survival and reproduction, that, friends, is the goal of the American Christian family. Right? Is it not the goal of the American Christian family to survive, stay married, and then reproduce, have kids that will get married, stay married, and continue this process? So here's the encouragement. If you have been doing this, and a good job of this, congratulations. You are a minority in America today. If you have raised God-fearing children, they're still close to the hive, they're still close to mom and dad, they've stayed married to one spouse, and you still have a business or assets to show, you are rare and you are much needed in this time. If you have not, you have likely gotten sidetracked by your own agenda, your own dreams, hobbies, or hardships. Maybe you've become too independent. The honeybee is not famous. They simply work to accomplish the goal, survival and reproduction. We could all learn a lot from the honeybee. Next is the paper wasp, the European wasp. Social wasps, also called umbrella wasps, like the umbrella that the one wasp found over at the Bible study. Like honeybees, they make nests. They establish new colonies each spring after winter hibernation. And what is the end goal of paper wasps? Similar to bees, to ensure survival and continuation of its species. They live a predictable and relentless pursuit of this goal. The most common in Europe is the Palestis dominula. That's Latin. The word Palistis, derived from Greek, means founder of a city. And then dominula, that's the Latin, means little mistress. So if you want a fun parallel, think of John Smith and Pocahontas, the paper wasps. You have a European guy and a Pocahontas figure from the New World. There are others, but that's the most known. The term wasp is also a political compliment or pejorative based on where you stand. I think it's a compliment. Wasp can mean white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, WASP. Most of the early colonies were founded by white Europeans of this pedigree and religion. So, Anglo-American lawyers, businessmen, statesmen. You think of Washington, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson in this sense. So the paper wasp is like a patriotic American citizen today. They have spiritual DNA that maps them back to the old world. Englishmen like John Locke, William Blackstone, or documents like the Magna Carta or the Mayflower Compact. Anything worth remembering or fighting for must be put down on paper and ratified. The purpose of the Magna Carta was to put in writing what was just orally transmitted. Individuals have rights. Yeah, we talked about it. Now we put it in paper. And in 1200, some rebellious barons accosted the king and made him sign it. So, paper wasps, they secure your rights. They build a colony. Land ownership is secured through charters and legal actions. Colonies, cities, states, regions, and a nation was secured by men who wrote things on paper. Hence the paper wasp, the paper white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. A deed is a claim to your home. You have a paper wasp to thank. A penal system will punish a criminal. Thank a paper wasp. A dying will, power of attorney, living trust. Thank the paper wasps who brought this to our shores. All law of this nature traces back in letter and spirit to the Holy Bible. Truth. The Articles of Confederation, paper wasp work. The Declaration of Independence, paper wasp work. The Bill of Rights, the Constitution, the Emancipation Proclamation. These are examples of great documents written by paper wasps. They secure our future and all of civilization. That is not hyperbolic, that is the truth. So, in homeschooling, over at Harvest where I attend, the littles are taught feudalism. Feudalism is a terrible past for humanity. So it's important we teach them how terrible it was and then what the solution was to feudalism. And that's on theme with the hornet's nest. So, okay, so you got church people and citizens that represent the honeybee. Then you have like these paper wasps that are like different but of the same species. How do we see each other? Okay, well, most church leaders see paper wasps or wasps and hornets as divisive, a problem or an obstacle in ministry. Why? Well, they build a hive and attach it to their church, right? Like this political faction or a biker club or whatever, some group that's connected but yet separate of the church. Or they disagree with many church teachings and they talk about it. They're ready to challenge anyone, anytime, especially after service, right? And they believe that politics is duty and not option. Well, today in church I saw a slide, I took a photo. If I can recall it from memory, it said that church living is a result of church learning. And if we can keep people ignorant, we will keep them impotent. I think that was pretty good recollection. There's a slide. So politics is duty and not option. And that's why pastors see these paper wasps and hornets as pests. They won't let go of that. They are actively engaged in the political process, and that's a problem for a 501c3. That's a problem for a charity. That's a problem for a pastor who's over 50 years old, who learned something that's not true from his predecessor, who learned how to be apolitical from his spiritual father. Anyway, so how do pastors see the Patriots, the Hornets? That's how they see us. But how do we see them? Well, most patriots see pastors and church elders as honeybees who are emasculated men who cannot sting. They are just religious organizers who thrive in an environment where they are received, welcomed, embraced. They're not really getting out to heal and minister in the world per se. They're not helping herding sheep heal. They're just queen bees, and everyone's there to serve them. So that's often how patriots and political folks see the pastors or the elders. Because we see church prayer meetings organized to pray for the oppressed of the world, the oppressed of America, and yet we don't have lawyers and judges and cops in the congregation. We pray, but we don't want to be the answer to prayer. We don't know any officials. We certainly aren't going to advocate ourselves, so we pray. Also, we take that attitude because salaries and church buildings are funded with the honey of the free economy. We're not at war with the honeybees. We employ them. We work. We create honey. We believe in the gospel, the good news. The gospel is honey. We just don't think you respect us. We respect you, but you don't respect us. So churches have volunteers with 2A rights. They got Second Amendment rights. So door greeters and elders have guns, and, well, you didn't secure that right. A statesman secured that right. A paper wasp secured that right. And then, of course, the pulpit. That is the greatest symbol of free speech in America, the pulpit. And in ancient Israel, it was one with the city square. You didn't have a synagogue separate from your state house. You were one organization. So that's how we see each other. In summary, the honeybee is a metaphor for churchgoers and church leadership, citizens who are organizationally apolitical. They are busy and they think they're indispensable. Only the gospel is indispensable if they produce it. And the honey is a metaphor for the gospel. Good news, provision, homeschooling, pure, undefiled product that the world desperately needs. So paper wasps and hornets and patriots, we embrace that. We want that. We support that. But men without stingers, men without balls, if you will let me use that term, men who just sit in pulpits and sit in offices, we just don't respect that. We need to see you fighting for the same thing. So the paper wasp is a metaphor, therefore, for Christians who are called to secure the promised land. They are government officials who protect you, your church, your way of life from the evils of the world. Lawyers, state reps, senators, judges, sheriffs, ICE, and many more. They protect the church. And God forbid a child is ever trafficked, and there was a scare last Christmas. A large church, one of the members had a child almost trafficked. Believe me, if that was the case, they would not be calling the church office. They would not be calling their pastor. They would not be calling the daycare, the nursery. They would be calling the Department of Justice. They would be calling the local sheriff. There would be a massive outcry. Where is justice? Where is my hornet? Where's my stinging insect to go fly a drone, fly and buzz, send the cruisers and all the apparatus of government to punish the evildoer, to apprehend the wicked? So that teaching was short. We're 15 minutes here. And so let's just wrap it up here. Our common goals: survival and reproduction. What stands in the way of survival? Abortion. What stands in the way of reproduction and nuclear family? Gender destruction and the laws recently introduced. Divorce and no-fault divorce laws. Family courts, unjust laws. Weak churches that don't intercede passionately, either spiritually or legally, that just let things fall apart and they go back to their church. They go back to preaching. They go back to Wednesday nights. There has to be passion and engagement. It says in Isaiah that the Lord was displeased. There was no one to intervene. And Isaiah is referring to justice. He's referring to the legal system. He's not calling us to pray and pray and pray. He's calling us to be the answers to the prayers as well as pray. So it's time for the church man to man up and stop trying to function within the church boards and stop trying to stand out in the organizational churchianity of today. So watch this short video of the wasp, the paper wasp, that was stomped on at the Bible study. Watch it as it just tries to live. It tries to fly away. It's trying to gain its footing and bearings. And it just can't, because the church didn't think it was needed. The honeybee hive and all of their mama ministries and sugar candy ministries and whatever they do, they didn't think they needed the paper wasp, so they stomped it out and therefore bit the hand that feeds them. So that's my short teaching. And it also reminds me about a book written by Jimmy Carter, 39th president. My 10-year anniversary, I went to Savannah, Georgia, and I went to a bar. Apparently, the bartender knew the history of this bar. The former president stood up on the bar and declared his candidacy. The peanut farmer from Georgia, Jimmy Carter, wrote the book called Hornet's Nest. So the honeybee is the little church man that can't sting. The paper wasp is the high-ranking government official who does great things with paper and charters and, right, the Benjamin Franklin and the Thomas Jefferson. And the honeybee down here is like the priest who doesn't sting. What we need is the hornet, right? The hornet's like the insect in between the bee and the wasp. And every Christian has to understand what it means to be a hornet. So a little excerpt here, keeping it under 20 minutes. In this ambitious and deeply rewarding novel, Jimmy Carter brings to life the Revolutionary War as it was fought in the Deep South. It was a struggle of both great and small battles and of brutality, often with brother against brother and neighbor against neighbor. Jimmy Carter, he and his wife, Rosa Lynn, founded the Atlanta-based Carter Center, a nonprofit organization that works to prevent and resolve conflicts, enhance freedom and democracy, and improve health around the world. Why is it that the paper wasps of this great nation understand that when Jesus said, "You should have done justice and the love of God," why does the church not understand that you have to have both? Every great leader of all time, biblically and in recent times, and in 1200 when the Magna Carta was signed, they knew that you can have the love of God and justice at the same time. You should not neglect justice and the love of God. That is the more important matters we've neglected for too long in the churches of America. It's time to put all of our stuff on hold and find out why we think that nest hanging above our window or that pesky bunch over here at church just won't go away. It's just a sign. It's just a sign. The hornet's nest is here to stay. We're going to get the nation back. We need you men to grow stingers so some of these women can go back home and quit fighting. It's too bad that women are on the front lines of this battle right now. They were not made and wired for this job. Every time I turn on Facebook and I see a congressional hearing and these poor congresswomen and state leaders, national leaders, they have to go against the darkest, most sinister, evil men and women. And so what are the men doing? What are we doing? A bunch of honeybees, right? We're going to work and buzzing around and doing church stuff and, bzzz, and we couldn't sting if we wanted to. It's not even in our anatomy or our frame of mind. So that's the rant is over. 20 minutes. Have a great night. And check out victor.us for other teachings. Check out the pickleball program for homeschoolers. Go to victor.us and check out what we do. Have a blessed night. Like and share this video.